Westfield is delivering for Culver City. These are tough economic times. Westfield is going to be bringing an enormous new source of revenue. This is carefully designed from a legal standpoint in order not to serve as a precedent for any billboards in the city of Culver City, which are prohibited. This is on-site signage in order to attract business to one of the great financial resources that the city has, the Westfield Shopping Center, which is freeway close but almost invisible from the freeway. I appreciate Mr. Blumenfeld's careful exposition on what the financial implications for the agency may or may not be. We do have a guaranteed source of revenue from this, which was something I'm very proud of, a substantial amount annually guaranteed to us. We may not get to the point where we actually are sharing in the profit over and above that for some time, but there is no question in my mind that this will be both a benefit to the viability of the shopping center, but a benefit to all of the tenants within it. I think that, frankly, the reason that we're here was practically a mistake, because I was very, very certain that we needed to reduce the height from the amount that was requested in the first place. But frankly, this does just make a more billboard that will be more attractive, not a billboard, a sign for the mall that will be more attractive. There's no difference in whether it intrudes on the view shed in the area or not. And I think that we should support it and move forward and let Westfield go ahead and continue. I guess they're going to be opening the renovated mall in October, one of the few expanding businesses in Culver City right now, and they are going full steam ahead. We need them to keep doing what they're doing. We have a stake in seeing them prosper, because as they prosper, so will Culver City. I will make the motion that we approve this amendment.
Christopher? Thank you.
Just a couple questions. By the way, I was on the redevelopment agency when we did vote on this. It was a 3-2 vote. I was one of the dissenters on approving the sign as we have today. Sal, what would the signage be if we hadn't made the exception? What would the signage be for a sign there?
What would the signage be? You mean for under the DFD?
Yeah, if we had not voted to approve that size sign, what would is there a particular length and width that it would be under our?
Yes, the sign ordinance would restrict, for example, rooftop signing, and to the extent the signage was affixed to the building, it could be construed as rooftop signing and it would be prohibited. As we pointed out earlier, billboard signs are also not permitted, so it would restrict the types of advertising that could also be placed on the building. And the allowable signage is a function of the size of the site and the numbers and types of signs that are provided. And there's a formula for calculating that for all the businesses, really, whether they're a mall or another kind. The fact that this would be a master sign program for this unique building gives them a little bit more opportunity, but obviously they could not build the kinds of signs that are freeway oriented without the DFD that Agency Council just referred to.
Do we have any other signs in Culver City that are similar in size?
No, the reason for that is because of the unique nature of the mall, the size of the mall. It provides
among some of us that the signage would not necessarily bring in more customers to the mall. It would bring in more money, but it wouldn't attract more customers to go into shop, because it would be just simply advertising whatever they decided to do. It wouldn't have, you can tell me if you change your mind since you first brought it up, but I remember that you could have a whole different variety of signs on your advertisements on your sign, and it wouldn't be, for instance, advertising a store in the mall.
Just to answer that, it is solely for on-site signage. And on-site signage, by definition, is to advertise products and tenants at the mall. And I don't recall ever saying that it wouldn't bring bring extra sales. In fact, we think it's very significant to pull the 405 traffic in and to pull people from the other side of the 405.
Can you give us some examples of the kinds of signs that might be up there?
For example, we would love to get an Apple store, and we would have an Apple ad up on there. We've talked to the current or the likely tenants, which are Target and those sort of people, to advertise events and special activities they're doing. They're the best examples, but sometimes it's just graphics announcing that there's certain products that are going to be released at the mall. It's distinctly activity at the mall, and it's distinctly to generate sales at the mall. And I don't recall ever saying otherwise.
Well, I remember very clearly that there could be a product that's being used by somebody in the mall that's a very common product that could be advertised. You wouldn't necessarily bring people into the mall by advertising that product.
There's a couple of things. One is, when you're advertising to cars moving past, the first thing it should say is retail. It should be associated with the mall, but it's really catching the eye and sort of saying something new has happened at Culver City. There is retail, there's activity. It's not just a blank drive-it wall anymore. So the signs announce activity and draw attention to the mall. It does grow sales.
This will have the kind of visual blight that we have tried so hard to contain in Culver City through our signage laws. This is an exception already, a huge exception to our signage laws.
Is now the size that we brought before the agency, and the size of the sign was never in question. It was, could you push that down again? And when it was translated into the final documents, the size came down. But in front of the agency, the size that we're saying tonight we would like some of the signs, or one of the signs, increased by, is the size that everyone was in favor of. It is more visible purely because the piece at the bottom, you start to get more visibility from Sepulveda. The height at the top, it's seen from a further distance on the freeway, but the sign is more effective as you put the piece on the bottom as well. And the experts in the business, the sign companies, came to us and said, look, can you sort of work on this, because it's a lot more saleable for us.
Thank you.
Where can we find the limitations on advertising that they were talking about? Where does it say what the advertising has to be?
Yes, through the chair. The DFD indicates that the approved signing, must comport with the sign ordinance in the zone code. And the provisions basically say that the signs cannot display off-premises advertising. So it must be signs that are strictly limited to what is offered at the mall. And you heard Mr. Goodwin refer to that.
Where is that?
It's on page 12 of attachment 1, item C.
It's actually, yes, I'm sorry, page 12. Under advertising content.
Okay. So, for instance, if somebody is in the mall, I think this is what Alan Corlins asked last time that I remember fairly well. He said something like, if a place in the mall sells Coca-Cola, for instance, or some other product that's found in the mall, and that's what's advertised on the wall, on the sign, how does that then bring people into the mall? Because that is sold there. We could think of a million products that could be sold in the different stands and the different, they're selling everything, water, bottled water, other drinks, all sorts of food, all sorts of clothing. There are many, many things, and so the problem that I have is if this truly is something to bring people into the mall, it should be much more specific. It has to have perhaps the name of the store that sells it. But the way it is now, anything could be advertised literally in this big mall, and it's going to bring money to Westfield and perhaps to the agency, but not necessarily bring more people. It just seems like it's a way of putting more advertising money aside.
I'm a little confused here. Are we addressing the content of the sign or just the size of the sign right tonight?
Well, this evening you're only considering the size of the sign. But
okay.
But I think the reason I'm bringing that up is I think that because they're saying that as I understand it, that increasing the sign is going to make better signage and bring more customers in. That's the whole purpose of this. And there's got to be a valid reason for increasing the sign measurements that we already passed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I could clarify as to the content of the signs, you cannot use on this sign any product that's sold in the mall. It has to be a product that is a significant portion of the business involved. If it's just incidental to the business involved, it is not permitted under the provision that that Chair Member Weiss mentioned.
Yeah, and I agree, and that's one of the problems. That is not related to any of the stores.
I think you misheard the agency attorney. Could you repeat that?
Yes, on the contrary, it must be related to the stores. It must be a product that is a substantial portion of the business of the store.
No, I understand that, but a person who's driving by seeing a sign of a drink or of a clothing or something, that doesn't mean they're going to come into the mall. That's just a sign, a product that can be bought in many, many places as they're whizzing by the freeway. It doesn't bring them necessarily into the mall. And it won't unless there's something that talks about the particular stores in the mall.
Thank you, Mr. Silwick.